Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you latest insights, thought leadership, and stories from across the global mining industry. In today's episode, we have Andrew Fulton and Jim Williams of Anglesey Mining, an AIM-listed mineral and exploration development company focused on advancing the Parys Mountain polymetallic project on the Isle of Anglesey in North Wales. Andrew has built a career leading mining operations, developing projects and turning technical challenges into practical solutions. Now he's helping shape the next chapter of Parys Mountain with Jim Williams, where the focus is taking on a disciplined, technical-driven approach to unlocking the project's potential. In this episode, we're going to explore why understanding geology comes before drilling, how decades of historical data can reduce risks, the role of modern technology in project development, and why leadership, community engagement, and strong technical foundations are critical to building successful mining projects in today's industry. So, Andrew and Jim, great to have you on the podcast. How are you both?
Good, thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Very happy to
Good,
be
Thank
here.
you.
Great. So, as we always start these episodes off, and Andrew, you have been on the podcast previously, back in the day, probably one of the first 5 or 10 episodes, which was probably 7-8 years ago. We always obviously ask a little bit about the guest and a little bit about their backgrounds and their careers. So I'll start with yourself, Andrew. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself and your career, especially for those that didn't listen in the early days. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, that's brilliant, Rob. Thank you. And, I'm not actually that far away from where that first podcast was held. I'm still on the northeast coast. I think we're not suffering the same heat as the south. We've got the air conditioner that is the North Sea. So I think I'm a little cooler where I am than you. Yes, that was back at ICL Bowlby when I was general manager. And I have predominantly had a career in operations, 30 of those years, spread across South Africa, Europe, Asia, Middle East, and also the Far East reaches of Russia. But I've since spent the last sort of 10 years now back in the UK, growing the capability at ICL Bowlby, and also growing the capability and the view of UK mining, as I led the UK Mining Association for about 5 years from my time at Bowlby and on through to when I returned to consulting again, which is about increasing the voice, the opinion, the perspective of UK mining operations. But we've got a lovely tapestry of operations here from operations, right, but starting originally from exploration. So I've now taken myself back into the exploration space. So summary, 30 years, mining engineer, moving from closing mines to opening mines. And I want to spend more time now in opening mines.
Yeah. And Jim, just wanting me to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Right, I'm a geologist. I've got about 40 years experience under my belt. I graduated with a master's and diploma of Imperial College in 1984. I worked very extensively in Africa for a multitude of minerals, mainly gold, diamonds. I worked in Latin America, Mexico. I worked in the US, Canada, and I worked also in the former Soviet Union, which was obviously what was Russia at the time. So, so basically, I've also co-founded a company, which I listed on the AIM market and co-listed on the Toronto Venture Exchange in 2005, 2006. I ran that as chief executive officer for about 15 years. I stepped down off the board in 2018 to semi-retire. And that was silver, lead and zinc in central Mexico. So that done very well at the time. We built a mine, 1,000-ton-a-day mine, and we actually produced 2 concentrates, one lead with silver and one zinc concentrate, which we sold to off-takers. So in the day of then's $30 silver price, it was very, very good. So in a nutshell, that's me. But look, thank you for inviting us on today, Andrew and myself, to allow us to bring you and your followers up to speed with the developments of Anglesey Mining PLC.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll move on. And Jim, just wanting you to just tell us a little bit about the Parys Mountain project. And it's obviously new state of being in different hands now. So I'll hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about the company and the project.
Thank you. If I may, I'll just concentrate initially on the last 6-7 months or so. So basically, since December last year, Anglesey has been totally recapitalized. This initially involved the cash injection of £350,000 at a price of 7.6p. We eliminated a long hanging debt of nearly £4 million in return for Anglesey's percentage shareholdings in two projects in Labrador, Canada, and Grangeburg in Sweden. And it allowed us to concentrate on what we see as our core asset now, which, as the name implies, is Parys Mountain on the Isle of Anglesey in North Wales. The Parys Mountain project, which Andrew will give more detail on in due course, it is a massive sulfide project, VMS as we call it. So basically, very clean geology, very easy to understand geology if you're a geologist and a technical person. And that's why I suppose I wanted to emphasize what a VMS is, because many readers might not know geological phenomena. So basically, during March this year, we raised just short of £700,000 through ALBR Capital at 6p with a 1-for-1 warrant price at 7p. And that's valid for 12 months. Right now, we have just over 65 million shares in issue with a market cap of some £3 million when I last checked the market, the price within the last half an hour. When we restructured the company back in early December, Brendan Carhill and I joined the board as non-exec directors. That came really good. Brendan he's non-independent. He represents the largest shareholder, Energold Minerals Inc., who right now have 24.4% of the company. So I became exec chairman during May this year. Andrew joined the board as chief exec on the 1st of June. And concurrently, Martin Wood, who's UK-based, and Taj Singh, who's Toronto-based, joined as non-exec directors at the same time. So a little bit more background further back now with Anglesey Mining. So Anglesey Mining first listed on the main board of the London Stock Exchange back in the middle 1980s and moved to the AIM market some 5 to 6 years ago, if I recall. So I can fully appreciate for many, the optics of Anglesey Mining might not be the best, certainly for investors of a certain vintage, and for some perhaps who are not classed as vintage, and maybe even people who are far more junior, more recent recruits into the corporate sector might not even have heard of Anglesey Mining. If the optics have been negative for whatever reason, right now we want to change that. And on that front, specifically, I'd like to hand you over to Andrew now to give you a bit more detail of his plans for the company going forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. No, I would follow on exactly as Jim says. There's an incredible amount of history, and I think we'll answer this in some further questions in a short while. And there's a lot to build on. We've also recruited some teams on the ground. Geological competence is where it all starts. They're present as exploration geologists on site today. They're there for the period, and we're opening up our eyes to all the historic data, but also the opportunities that lie ahead. It's a wonderful part of the country to visit, and of course, it's within the UK tapestry of mines. There's a lot happening in the UK exploration and development space now. We're seeing old mines open up. We're seeing new mines being developed. We've got them on the East Coast with Anglo American. We've got them down in the Southwest. And there's a number of assets up towards into Scotland, even through Weardale Lithium and the fluorspar activities also in the same Weardale Valley. So there's a lot happening in the UK, and it's great to be a part of that. And Anglesey fits nicely into the critical mineral supply list, supplying both copper and zinc, and ability to do so as a concentrate for smelters. Which will be overseas. It'd be great if we had that asset in the UK. There'll be a conversation in the future. We did in the past, but for now, it will be something that we can strike a relationship with and see that that forms a part of the UK's critical mineral supply chain, both in and out of the country.
Andrew, you've taken on the project that's been explored and studied for decades. What was the first thing you wanted to understand when you arrived? And I suppose what surprised you the most?
It's had a bit of a potted history in recent times, but there has been mining and exploration activities in the region for decades, and one would say for centuries. We've got an old open pit mine behind the site and the area that we're focusing on now that has been mined right from the Bronze Ages through. But on the back of that more recent time, we're not there now to look for the problems. There are inevitably going to be some that will crop up, and we'll identify them as we progress forward. It's about managing those risks. But I've arrived, and particularly bringing a team on board that's looking to understand. So the first priority is to understand the geological system and how that might be then developed. I'm actually genuinely impressed by the amount and quality, and importantly quality, of historical geological data and work that's been completed to date. We're standing on the shoulders of some pretty competent people that have spent time there. And I won't name them, but they will come to light over time. Certainly their reports are featuring in our thinking now about how this project could really be brought to life. Decades of drilling, underground mapping, sampling, and technical studies, right from the geological, but right also the metallurgical. And it's not to replace the previous work, but to integrate it, validate it, and present it in a more modern, succinct way, such that we can build on it. Looking at early access opportunities, future growth, and other more regional exploration targets. We've got new digital systems that will help us with the workflows, and it's a way of which we could bring much of the old data to life. So yeah, as I say again, we're standing on the shoulders of those who've worked in Parys Mountain with us before, and we want to respect that. But it's about now spending the time today to see how that could be built in the future. So the challenge isn't about reinventing Parys Mountain, it's to better understand it and how that can be built in a way that really brings it to life. It hasn't quite been captured in the past years, and that's what we're challenging ourselves to do.
I suppose continuing on from that, obviously many companies rush into drilling more holes. You've chosen to spend obviously more time understanding the historical, obviously, data first. Why are you looking at that approach before doing more exploration?
Well, it's all exploration comes in many different guises and forms. Drilling is expensive, and all development companies will need to drill, and we will drill more holes. There are a number of holes which were drilled in the 2022-2023 period that don't yet sit within the mineral resource estimate. We've actually got some data now that we can put into that and build on some other exploration techniques that we're employing today, from geophysics, but also geospatial technologies, more on the exploration and targeting space. But within the actual mineral resource that we're looking to develop first, it's, I think for now, where we should be spending the shareholders' money is in building confidence that every future hole that we drill will be answering a specific geological question, not just drilling for the sake of drilling. And many commentators have said to us, just drill, increase the size of the resource, reissue the MOA, and keep moving up that curve. Right now, I don't think we need to immediately grow the resource. We need to build confidence into actually where we're going to target to build this mine. The objective, as I said, is not just to build the size of the resource, increase confidence, improve understanding. I guess by that, it's a value mechanism. Employ a drill where you're going to answer a particular geological question, and then those opportunities become more apparent. We've got a lot of data. We've got some modern techniques of looking at data. When we employ the next rig, it will be to answer the questions that we need answering, particularly about where we want to access first. So it mustn't just create another issue. It must answer a question. Drilling is expensive. Right now, our shareholders need to know that we're spending money wisely, prudently, and bringing value to the table, with what we have already. 40 years of data. What's it telling us today? Where should we start?
And obviously, continue yourself, Andrew. You've spent obviously your career operating mines. How does that influence the way that you're approaching Anglesey and the Parys Mountain project?
Yeah, I do look at this as a new application of my skills. I've operated in existing operations. I've expanded operations. I've transformed operations. I've had the necessity to close operations. Each of those in a responsible way. And that's exactly the style that I'm going to apply now with the opening up Parys Mountain, is in a responsible manner. It starts with people. And safe operations create successful operations. Responsible operations create successful operations. And the good leadership that I can bring, and with Jim's experience and his own personal style, with the team that we have engaged on the ground now, I think we can really deliver some results pretty quickly and develop confidence in the organization. It's on execution, consistency of delivery. I want to reduce risk and increase value. And I'd like to see investors' expectations met, because responsible mining is about meeting the expectations that we set. We set those through writing up towards certain codes of practice, to writing to the JORC, PERC, and 43101 codes, etc. Those are the expectations that we had set as developers for the investors. We must meet those. We set expectations amongst our communities. Let's deliver on those. We set expectations for our people, our workforce. Let's deliver to those as well. That for me is responsible mining. I would think that one part of my role now has become promotion, but this isn't just about presentations. This is about using capable people to make consistent decisions, which we report on, and consistent development progress that we report on in our presentations, not just the hype, but the reality of what we've delivered. And again, that's responsible mining.
Obviously, mining and exploration have changed enormously over the last 20 years. What technologies do you believe could improve projects like Parys Mountain?
I would right now really love to jump ahead to have to be talking about autonomy of operation, mining methods that reduce risk, reduce impact, and absolutely those are going to be some of the things that we're going to be drawing on when we look to the development stages and how we build this operation, so that we can put in the latest technology, the latest methodologies, reduce impact, again enabling us to meet those expectations with our stakeholders. But at this moment in time, we are still in an exploratory period. So we've got modern data systems. We've got a lot of great data management systems, geological data management systems that are available and used and practiced well here in the UK. They're trained in our universities. They take data and display it in hugely advantageous ways, integrating both visual information from cameras, from other optics, and the raw data that the geologists identify by their own eyes, collected together, formatted in a certain way, now to be visualized, tested against different mining methodologies, indicators of economics, whatever it might be. Those are the tools that we're using now, which are relatively available. And I wouldn't say are cutting edge, but I think there's going to be something in there around AI. I'm sure we'll find an application for it somewhere. But still, we want to rely on the good, wholehearted geologist as well, who will cast that opinion, doubt, question, challenge, etc., as a part of how we apply these new technologies. We've recently been in conversation with the University of Exeter's Critical Minerals Challenge Centre for Anglesey, but also myself for my role with the Mining Association of the UK, because I think in the UK we're not applying these as consistently as we could. We need to learn how these technologies are being applied in other sectors or other parts of the world, and how they can be captured in the environment that we're operating here in the UK, which is highly regulated, uses competent people who challenge and question these techniques. So one, we want to use it, but also I think the UK, by using it, can demonstrate and test those technologies and prove their worth for the rest of the world. So use the UK platform as a test environment. and quite possibly we might invent something new. Things are getting smaller, which means that aeromagnetics and the likes can be drawn from drones. But I'm sure still we'll go back to some of those traditional techniques that require a pilot in an aeroplane or a helicopter. But wherever we can, we will use technology. We won't put that at the expense of good, thorough, historical best practices. So I guess in that, technology doesn't replace geology, it enhances it.
This episode is sponsored by Mining International. In today's market, finding the right mining talent isn't easy. Mining International works closely with mining companies to identify and secure senior and technical professionals through a tailored search approach. If you're hiring or exploring your options, you can contact Rob Tyson via the show notes to start a conversation today.
Permitting has become one of the biggest challenges facing many mining projects, I suppose, across Europe, UK, the world. I hear it on many, or hear it weekly when I'm speaking to many CEOs of mining companies, always talking about permitting. How should mining companies approach that challenge? And is there anything you feel that they could be doing better around permitting?
Start early and adapt. As through permitting, it's about understanding what are the boundary limits of expectations. When are you crossing those? When are you getting close to those? And then building in the design means that you don't, and that you then enhance and you improve. It's a dialogue. It's a conversation. I almost say that the best permitting strategy isn't just about writing a good application. It's about building relationships, and relationships take time to grow. So you've got to start them early. Fortunately for Parys Mountain, we have a planning permit that was initiated in the 1990s, and it's still alive. It's been extended appropriately over time. However, we don't believe that the regulations have evolved at the pace of mining or what we're looking to develop at Parys Mountain. So predecessors initiated sensibly a program of reapplication that will supersede and replace the existing permit. It's not required by the organization, and it was some visionary work that said we will apply and we will develop an application that meets current and future expectations. So that program is underway, and it is well entitled and attuned to the development plans that we have and that are evolving. It incorporates environmental impacts, community impacts, and benefits that can be seen, and the whole plethora of expectations that have been set. The Welsh government has got a combined planning authority that brings strength to the local council's opinions, so they get fed in. And the recent scoping document was accepted as being reflective of the impacts that the site would or could have, and the mitigating measures that were being proposed. So we're on a good way forward because it has already been started, and I would actually doff my cap to those that initiated that, with the confidence and the conviction of taking forward a planning application that replaces something that we hold, but doesn't necessarily reflect best practice. So I think that's a really good part of the history that Parys Mountain has. But it has meant that we've had to start early, which we have, as I said, starting before, and then design and adapt to those expectations. We're quite buoyed about the opportunities that we're presenting to Parys Mountain. The communities are behind it. They've seen the site shape and come and go, and people come and go over the period. They'll be very excited to see it come online. There are some historical impacts from the open pit mining that underground modern mining will eliminate. So the perception that this is going to be another open pit is already pretty much covered off, but we'll be able to demonstrate that reduced impact through further dialogue and conversations with the local communities. But whilst that historic mining might be cursed, it's also an environment to learn about how we might apply best practice in other parts of the world are still making that choice to access through the surface, or have a need or opportunity to access through the surface, how we might rehabilitate old lands. It's also a very fruitful place to have a conversation about historic and modern mining. So engaging with a local heritage group that are looking at developing sites in the area to explain about the history of mining, and where we can step forward and talk about the future of mining, which will go a long way to building the perceptions of mining for people throughout the UK, which is that mining brings benefit, mining brings the value that we are looking for from the materials that we handle, the instruments that we use, and does it in a responsible and practical way. And of course, we'd love to be employing local people. We'd love to be enriching the local community, alongside satisfying our shareholders and the expectations of our regulators.
As we've alluded to, most of your experience has been in operations. Now you're in sort of project development. What's the one thing you wish more mining companies spent doing in project development?
Anything that reduces uncertainty. Certainty is about risk management. There are times that people feel that it's a race. Well, the starting clock has started. The gun is fired. The clock is ticking. But one has to be measured by long-term sustainable delivery than just in spurts. So I think it's about reducing uncertainty. Risks, when they present themselves, hit hard and they put you on a back foot. So I think time should be spent on risk management, risk identification, and reducing uncertainty. That then spills over to increasing value. When you reduce uncertainty, you're increasing certainty. You can realize the potential. You can then choose to speed things up. And aside that, you can then, on the basis of having a strong foundation, you can then grow your resource base. You can look for further exploration targets, etc. As is the matter, of course, for exploration companies. But for me, yes, increasing confidence, any way in which you could advance production, and then to continually and concurrently increase the resource base. And there's an organization in the Southwest that are doing that now, rapidly increasing their ability to access deeper seams through infrastructure works, whilst continuing their exploration activities to the side. And that's a model that is not uncommon to us. So it's about finding early production opportunity alongside increasing the confidence of the resource system and finding further exploration targets within the area. It's often the one thing that mining companies fail to do when they have this conversation about certainty and what does it stand for. It's about increasing the value through the reduction of risk. Of course, increased resource base is increased value, but the unknown and the one thing that can hit hard is when risk presents itself. So know your risks, manage them, whilst you concurrently increase your resource base.
We have a global audience listening to these podcast episodes. And you mentioned, obviously, the UK mining industry seems to be having a resurgence and probably has over the last 4 or 5 years, I'd say, and maybe beyond that. I just wonder if you can give our viewers just an overview of what's happening across the UK mining industry. So they've got a feel of what is actually happening within the UK mining industry, because it probably has been a little bit of a sleep over recent decades, but there is a lot going on. I just wonder if you can share that knowledge and what's happening with our audience.
No, thanks, Rob. It's a good question. And I'll do my best to reflect on the UK. Very often mining has been described as dirty and dangerous and predominantly linked to coal mining. It drove the Industrial Revolution alongside other minerals that were mined in the UK, historically lead, zinc, golds, and clays, you name it. But it has been traditionally linked to coal mining. The regulations changed in 2014, and just following that, the last deep mine in the UK, Kennerley Colliery, closed in December 2015. Which then left what was historically called the miscellaneous mines. And when I use the phrase mines, I mean underground mines. The UK differentiates between the two. It says mines being underground and traditionally quarries being the old sunshine miners or your open pits. There is a very large open pit, open cast mining industry in the UK, predominantly aggregates, but also a number of other industrial minerals. And another example of a metal would be tungsten West. They're governed by the quarry regulations, and those two regulatory frameworks are sort of differentiated the two, or separated the two in the eyes of the public. The UK the Mining Association of the UK is the voice piece for those underground mines. There are, at last count, 28 underground mining operations in the UK, which is a number somewhat slightly larger than many would imagine. And it's across 12 or 13 different mineral types, from fluorspar to varieties to silica sand, salt, tin, polyhalite, potash was recently, gypsum, and we hope very soon copper, zinc, silver, and gold. Of course, there is gold mined in the UK, Scotland, and Wales, the devolved nations, and they're a strong group of companies, and they demonstrate every day responsible mining. They demonstrate every way how they give back to the community. They recruit themselves from the shadow of their own headgear. They're very strong advocates for what good looks like in their local communities. The Mining Association of the UK has looked to bring that collective voice together and speak into government with that. And it's recently that government have taken his attention has been brought to the value of minerals and mining through the critical mineral strategy. Now, mining and minerals are just a part of that value chain. Critical minerals are those that are employed in future technologies or are globally sensitive to change and global risk. But it's a full value chain, so it's the end products as well. And mining is where it starts, and minerals is where it starts. The government would like to see that 10% of our critical minerals are mined and collected from within the UK, and no more than 60% is drawn from any one nation alone, which means that there needs to be a tapestry of operations. Many of those can be sourced in the UK. So I spoke about 28 underground mines today, and I'd say that there were hundreds of quarries across the UK, collectively employing somewhere in regions of around 75 to 80,000 people. And of course, then all the supply chain that then feeds into that. But we've also got a very buoyant and developing exploration and development framework. So right up from the East Coast, and I put Anglo American's Woodsmith project into that development. It is still a project. It's one of the largest in Europe. But as you go up the East Coast, there are some smaller, but they are metal and important mineral types, from fluorspar to lithium, to nickel, up in Scotland with Aberdeen Minerals, right to Windshire to the West Coast, where there's an exploration around the Argyle minerals. Jump across the RFC, you've got the Iridian, and a lot of activities in Northern Ireland, on the mainland of Ireland as well. Into Wales, of course, we've got ourselves, and there's some further gold mining. We've got an existing coal mine still in the UK, which is not so much a thermal coal mine, but it's industrial products. So it produces coal for metalwork, but also 90% of the water in the UK is filtered through carbon products that are manufactured from the raw materials that are produced from Everberg and colliery. So it's coal, but not as you know it, mined here in the UK. And then we get down to the southwest, where there's a lot happening, and an amazing platform for speaking about the advocates for the future of minerals and mining, from your tungsten words through to Cornish metals, Cornish tin, Cornwall resource. I mean, the list goes on down in that part of the country. It's a very exciting place to be. There's a lot happening on the exploration. There's a solid foundation of operators that know what good responsible mining looks like. Bring the two together, you've got a lovely pipeline of projects through to operations with operational competence. Of course, in the middle of that, we've got to ensure that the skills are available to feed that growing interest. The government are right behind it with the critical mineral strategy and some of the work they're doing on skills development. And we've got a lot of advocates and volunteers around the country that are speaking up about the value of minerals and mining for future career choices, and exciting young people about this exciting world of minerals and mining. You can hear my excitement. We're trying to create that in young teenagers, but also at the same time educating them and informing them about what responsible mining looks like, can look like, how they can influence that before they make those final choices about whether it's an engineering world or a science world or an administrative space that they want to use to enter our sector. So yeah, it's small in relative terms to the rest of the world, but it's very buoyant. And one of the things that I'm always pleased and amazed by is the quality of people and the quality of conversations, because from all this, we also have an amazing consultancy sector. A lot of international companies will come to London, come to the UK to look for competent people who qualify work to grow investment into opportunities that are around the world, but they come to the UK commentators because they know of the quality of the professionals that work in that space, and their credentials reach the minds of investors and the minds of regulators, but importantly, responsible miners through and through. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you for giving us that UK overview. And there's certainly obviously a lot happening and a lot of progress to be made. And there's obviously a bright future for the UK mining industry. Lastly, what does the short to medium term outlook say for the next 12 to 18 months for Anglesey mining and Parys Mountain project?
Well, we've started. We've employed a new exploration team that, as I said earlier, they're gathering the information that's already been made available, formatting that, bring in historical data. We'll look to release an updated MRE in the not too distant future, and on the back of that, understand how the economics of the commodities market, but also the economics of mining today, compare with the previous preliminary economic assessment that was presented in 2021, and understand how we're going to present that next to investors. Not only that the commodity prices have increased significantly, well beyond the inflationary rates of actually undertaking mining, but also what we've learned technically, how that will enhance our access and early mining of rich metal minerals. The development pathway has, in some respects, been laid out in previous, so we're going to review that, and that's going to be the formation of our future technical releases in the form of most likely an economic assessment before we move on the next stages. But right now, I don't want to overpromise because we've sort of got to get an idea now about what we're doing this week, the week after, and the week after. And what we do want to do over the next 12 months is improve communication so we can update progress more regularly than I feel that investors have had in the past. And I'll talk about investors as stakeholders. So stakeholders as a whole, we'll do the same for community, we'll do the same with regulators, and we'll do the same with your listeners if you'll have us back and give you an update, maybe in that 6 months or 12 months from now.
Yes, certainly more than welcome to come back on the podcast and give us an update. So, Andrew and Jim, thank you very much for sharing your journey. Give us an update, obviously, on Anglesey mining and the Parys Mountain project. Obviously, wish you well for the remainder of the year. And yeah, more than welcome to come back on next year. And for our listeners who want to get, obviously, as you mentioned, communication is important. If they want to get updates on what you're doing and the project, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you on?
Well, we have a website which has been in existence for some period of time. There's a lot of history on there if anybody would like to delve into that. We're going to use that to continue to present our updates. We might see some other changes to the formatting, etc., which is just representative of the team that we are forming around the project. We also use LinkedIn, which is a pretty standard professional network. We haven't strayed off into any of the others yet, but I think there will be a place, particularly if we're talking to mixed audiences, as we look to develop. We'll choose to develop those choices and platforms accordingly. But for now, it's website and LinkedIn.
Yeah, great. We'll include those in the show notes accompanying this episode for easy access and for our listeners to follow the story, get updates, and reach out to you if they've got any questions. So
Yeah.
Thank you very much again, Andrew and Jim, and look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
No worries. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support, and please keep sharing these episodes far and wide. Obviously, we were speaking about a mining project or development here in the UK. Don't have many UK mining companies or many companies that have UK assets come on the podcast. So, and myself coming from the UK, really appreciate if you can share this as far and wide as possible. And as Andrew has alluded to, the UK does have a mining industry and it is growing. And I suppose not many people necessarily associate the UK with having a mining industry, but Andrew has alluded to what is actually happening here in this country. So thank you again for listening. Appreciate your continued support. And until next time, Happy mining.